Hello and welcome to whatever day today happens to be. That it is Monday because I am here, Gillian Rhodes. I am your host for Community Coffee. Community Coffee is a product of CosmoQuest. Well, it is a stream of CosmoQuest, which is a part of the Planetary Science Institute, and it is the community's time to join everyone on the stream and talk about things that they're passionate about. Mine happens to be art, and so I am here every Monday at this very time to help you steam ahead into the week. I've used that joke before, but I will use it again. Steam ahead into the week with various discussions about astronomy and art, all the different ways that they fuse. And now, before we went live, I have seen some bits coming in, actually 2 rounds of bits from Tropical.com. Thank you so much, which means that I owe you a happy dance. And so since there's 2 rounds of bits, you can have the standard happy dance with another little happy dance, the finger happy dance to go with it. All right. Thank you so much for your bits. Now, today, I do not have a guest, as I've had for the last couple of weeks. What I do have is poetry, as the title of the stream will tell you. I had the feeling that there was a lot of poetry about astronomy, and I was right. I spent a lot of time falling into rabbit holes during the week. And so I spent a lot of time in the rabbit hole looking for poetry and found a ton. One of the things that I found was an internet dump with literally like an encyclopedia of poetry about astronomy and art. And half of them were in French, so not very useful for the stream, but it was very cool to find. So I have picked out some number between 7 and 10, I don't remember, poems that I thought were particularly interesting for various reasons, and they're very different. They all have very different styles and concepts. Some of them are very abstract, some of them are educational, some of them are rhyming, some of them have nothing to do with rhyme, but they're just, they show some different, some of them are, you know, communicating an emotion, and some of them are communicating physics and facts. Obviously, it is not exhaustive, and there's so many more, but this was just one of the ones that I managed to find, and I just think they're super cool. So the plan for today is for me to just kind of go through the poems that I have and read them for you. I think I've fixed the scratching issue. There was my tooth might have been scratching on the mic. I hope it's better now. So let me know if it's not. Because obviously, if we're doing dramatic readings, we can have anything getting in the way. So without further ado, I think we'll go ahead and get started and move into the first poem. So this one I think is a good one to start with because it's very sort of Dr. Seuss-like. So it's fun to listen to, it's fun to read, and it also talks about the TRAPPIST system, which is a particularly interesting system that I think everybody knows about now. But if you don't, you will by the end of this poem, because it's very descriptive. It goes on a whole sort of educational as well. Now, this particular poem is written by John Raymond. He's an American astrophysicist living in Bordeaux in France. I'm reading from his website, by the way. He says, I study the formation and evolution of planetary systems, which makes sense why he's writing about the TRAPPIST. And he's also a science fiction lover. And so he says on his website that he is available to help out with ideas for books, movies, games, or any other projects set on other planets to kind of help with world building and creating scientifically accurate settings for storytelling. So if you are interested in world building, or you need help with your scientific world building, this is the guy to call. He's published a few different poems on his website, but I'm going to read the one. It's called Ode to Seven Orbs. And as you will see, it has to do with the 7 planets of the TRAPPIST. So here we go. Words. Wake up now, people. I've got some big news. You won't want to miss this. You won't want to snooze. We just found some planets while we were stargazing. Gather around, listen up. These ones are amazing. It's not just one new planet. There are 7, all orbiting one star up there in the heavens. With 7 planets, it still goes to 11. The thing about this system that just makes us squeal, all 7 are Earth-sized. Now that's a big deal. And 4 of those planets could have the conditions for liquid water based on their positions. How did you find these new planets, you ask? Well, first let me say it was no easy task. To start off, we made a long list of stars. Then we measured their brightness again and again. Most of the stars just looked awfully boring. They stayed the same brightness. They weren't worth exploring. The ones we were looking for had little blips. Their brightness stayed constant, except for small dips. Each dip is a planet that, just as it passes, the front of the star blocks some light from our glasses. The brightness we measure goes blip every time the planet goes once around, then it realigns. Another way you can think of the dips, each blip is like a single tiny eclipse. Armed with the star's brightness, we measured and figured how big are the planets and how they're configured. This new star with planets is called TRAPPIST-1. It's not a star that is at all like the sun. It's much, much, much smaller and also less hot. 2,000 times fainter. Now that is a lot. An ultra-cool dwarf star, they call it, and hey, it's just about 40-odd light years away. The planets have letters for names, now you see, from outside to in, it's H, G, F, E, D. And yes, as you guessed it, after that C and B, the first one called B, there's no planet A. A is reserved for the star, by the way. All 7 planets are close to their star. They orbit real fast since they're not very far. Planet B's year, 1.5 Earth days. If you lived there, you'd have all sorts of birthdays. Stand on a planet in the TRAPPIST-1 system. The planets you'd see in the sky, you can't miss them. Their orbits are so close that they'd each appear as big as the full moon, bigger when they're near. Imagine the werewolf problem they must. The sun in the sky would stay in the same place. The planets all show to their star the same face. The planets would shift and sometimes look like crescents. A peek at that sky is like an antidepressant. The 2 inner planets, planet B and C, are too hot for oceans. They'd be real steamy. But the 4 planets after D, E, F, and G are all about the right place for a C. They could have liquid water, although we don't know if they even have H2 or O. There's plenty of planets out there that are dry. Just look at that big red dot up in Earth's sky. That's Mars. It's got water, but only a trace. And Venus, of course, is a hot, hot, dry place. The planets' orbits were not set by chance. They seem to be following a cool cosmic dance. Take, for example, planets D and E. When E completes 2 orbits, D has done 3. They meet up again at the very same place. This orbital resonance is common in space. Each pair of planets is in resonance, so it's like the whole system is doing a tango. We think that the resonant configuration is a signpost of the planet's migration. That means that the planet's orbits shifted. While they were forming inward, they drifted. One cool last thing I should say, TRAPPIST suns connected to Galileo before he found 4 big moons orbiting Jupiter's skies. The TRAPPIST-1 star is about Jupiter's size. Now let's wrap up with a ditty for later. It's written for you if you're a planet hater. Planets, you say, no big deal. There's a zillion, 8 in our solar system and a billion in orbit around other stars in the sky. Why should I care about this one little guy? I'd answer your question with a look back at history. Discovering new planets may help solve a big mystery. Are we all alone? Is there other smart life? Do I have an alien doppelganger and wife? How can we answer this key age-old question? It's not all simple, but here's a suggestion. Any life out there will need its own planet, maybe with oceans or ice caps or granite. We now have the telescopes, tools, and techniques to find other planets and take a sneak peek to try to find out if the Earth is unique. And I will take a moment and let the words roll into the air and come out of my brain. Many, many words in this one. Just particularly, I love the rhyme, and I love how he uses the different imagery along the way. Now, the next one could not be more different if I tried. Find me a poem that's completely opposite to this poem. This one is written by Edith Sodergran. She is no longer with us. She was born in St. Petersburg into a Swedish-speaking bourgeois family. And she has, I'm just looking through her. You know, she lived during a really interesting time. Definitely had some, political parts to her, but that has nothing to do with it. What I'm reading for you is a poem that she wrote. It's called "On Foot I Had to Cross the Solar System." On foot I had to cross the solar system. Before I found the first thread of my red dress, I sense myself already. Somewhere in space hangs my heart. Shaking in the void, from it stream sparks into other intemperate hearts. If I was a literature major, I'd go ahead and analyze that for you, but not, so I won't. The next one is easily, it's actually even shorter. And it's written by a poet that all of us know, I'm sure. All I have to say is Miles to Go, and you know who I'm talking about. I did not know before I did the research for this program that Robert Frost wrote a poem about space, but apparently he did, and it is 6 lines long, and this is what it says. It says, "But outer space, at least this far, for all the fuss of the populace, stays more popular than populous." Which is true, but it's kind of annoying. So, the simple, short, sweet, and simple. Now, a lot of the poems that I found along the way are educational, and I said that they're written in the sense of using a different medium to teach people about something, and some of them are more whatever the other word that I'm looking for, aesthetics, for the beauty of the poetry. And that I'm going to read next is kind of a little bit of both. It's a poem that was published in the Paris Review, and it's dedicated to Stephen Hawking. It's a sonnet, actually, technically, and I don't actually know about sonnets, so I couldn't tell you if it's really a sonnet, but for those literature majors who are watching, you can watch and see if it's really a sonnet. And it's about relativity. Now, this is written by Sarah Howe. She is a Hong Kong-born British poet, academic, and editor. Her first collection of poems is Loop of Jade, which was published in 2015. And she does have a website, which I think we're linking to. It's sarahhowepoetry.com, and she has a number of books that you can read, poetry collections, I believe. She has some articles, media. So definitely, if you are interested or you like the sonnet, go check her out, support her. So this particular, as I said, this particular poem was published in the Paris Review, and it's dedicated to Stephen Hawking. It's called Relativity. When we wake up, brushed by panic in the dark, our pupils grope for the shape of things we know. Photons, loosed from slits like greyhounds at the track, reveal light's doubleness in their cast shadows. That stripe, a dimmed lab's wall, particles no more, and with a wave bid all certainties goodbye. For what's sure in a universe that Dopplers away like a siren's midnight cry? They say, a flash seen from on and off a hurtling train will explain why time dilates like a perfect afternoon, predicts black holes where parallel lines will meet, stark horizon, even starlight, bent in its tracks, can't resist. If we can think this far, might not our eyes adjust to the dark? Oh, I thought that this particular one was such an interesting mix of things you can do and the games you can play with poetry and words, as long as with putting the facts inside. So you see, I'm reading, so I don't have words available for speaking. So I'm just going to move on to the next one because my words are all dedicated to reading. So I'm going to just actually, I had highlighted two poems from this guy, but I think I'm just going to read one. If we have time at the end, I'll read the other. I loved this person's poetry. The name is W.H. Auden, and he was a British poet, author, and playwright, best known as a leading literary figure in the 20th century for his poetry. He is no longer with us also. He was known for his chameleon-like ability to write poems in almost every verse form. And there's two poems that I wanted to read again, but I think I'm just going to do one. The first one is called After Reading a Child's Guide to Modern Physics. I do recommend you look it up, but I'm going to read this one. It's called The More Loving One. The More Loving One. Looking, it's called, yes, so The More Loving One. It says, looking up at the stars, I know quite well that for all they care, I can go to hell. But on earth, indifference is the least I have to dread from man or beast. How should we like it, for stars to burn with a passion for us we could not return? If equal affection cannot be, let the more loving one be me. Admirer as I think I am, stars do not give a damn. I cannot now I see them say, I missed one terribly all day. For all stars to disappear or die, I should learn to look in an empty sky and feel its total darkness sublime. This might take me time. Oh dear. That I didn't want to. Okay, I'm moving on to the next poem. And this one I thought was particularly interesting because it's in particular reference to the planets. So kind of the ones words are hard and concepts are even harder. The ones that I have read so far are more big, and this one is straight down to the solar system. An Epistemology of Planets. It is written by Annie Dillard, and she is a poet. She has a website. It's called anniedillard.com, and she has lots of books of poems and collections on her website. So again, if you're interested in this poem, definitely go visit her website, take a look around, at her stories, her essays, her poetry, her scholarly work, and give her some support. This poem, again, as I said, is called An Epistemology of Planets. And I did note when I was looking this up that Pluto is included, so it was obviously written before the whole Pluto thing happened. But I'm going to include Pluto in the poem because that's fair. Mercury. A brook runs on all night. A book tells itself a story. Oh, you, out of thought, you forgotten Mercury, will spin and spend the circles of your fury. Venus. After I've eaten the dessert, you rise. You wear your barret's shining skin. Later mornings you up and do it again. Do you think I've forgotten so soon? Earth. Planets, alone and grieving. Look who you're running with. Look at our baby blue planet, the Earth, and all of the people waving. Mars. Mars keeps its dignity, its networks of cool. Certain photographs reveal an air of longing still. Jupiter swings spattered by shadows of jovial moons, Io, Europa, Callisto, the giant Ganymede, companionable each, nonetheless keeps the perfected arc of his distance. Saturn. It is to you I come in my dream, you dancing alone in the dark, light heart, asleep inside your Uranus. Uranus, cold face, old rock and ice, remembers a song and sings it once round the dark, twice. Neptune. Vanished Neptune, luminous green, sleeps and dreams of the sun. Wake he holds her round as tight as he can. Pluto. Wandering in Cancer, that old celestial crab, takes years to touch carapace, jointed foot on jointed legs, nudges mandibles roving odd in every season. Getting to know you still, I find you clear-eyed, cloistered, odd. Now, there's 3 poems that I have left that I found. I think I'm going to read 2 of them. I'm just checking the chat to see if there's anything I need to know. Doesn't look like it right now. So I'm just going to pop over. This is Richard Bradigan. And he has a whole bunch of like really short little poems that I was thinking to read, but I think I'm just going to read, well, 2. One of them is literally just 1 line. But then the other one, I thought, given this year's sort of fuss and furor about comets, he has a poem about comets, so I was going to read that. Just about the poet Richard Bradigan. He was born in Tacoma, Washington. He is commonly seen apparently as a bridge between the beat movement of the 1950s and the youth revolution of the 1960s. So kind of a guru of 60s counterculture. He's kind of put into the company of Henry David Thoreau, or Ernest Hemingway, Mark Twain, these kind of people. So, you know, he's up there. Let's just say he's up there. So there's the one poem that I just, you know, honestly, the title is longer than the poem itself, and I just thought it was funny. The title is Albert Einstein, or upon first reading that light is projecting itself as 372,000 miles per second from Crab Nebula, 5,000 old-fashioned light years away. We all lose a few. I don't get it, but I think it's hilarious. Now, the next one, the one that I really wanted to read, though, is called Comets. And it's, again, one of those that's more about the poetry and the aesthetics of it than the actual facts. But I just thought it was a beautifully written poem, so I wanted to read it. It's called Comets. There are comets that flash through our mouths wearing the grace of oceans and galaxies. God knows we try to do the best we can. There are comets connected to chemicals that telescope down our tongues to burn out against the air. You know we do. There are comets that laugh at us behind our teeth, wearing the clothes of fish and birds. We try. Now, the poem that I'm going to skip is called About Planck Time. And I do actually recommend you look it up if you have the time. It's by George Bradley, and it's just an interesting. It's about that beginning of the universe, about Planck time. I just thought it was a nice title as well. But the one that I do definitely want to read, unless I do an encore, let's say we'll end it here, unless there's an encore. And this one is by Eleanor Farjeon, I think. That's how you say her name. Poet and celebrated children's book writer Eleanor Farjeon was born into an artistic family. Her father was a novelist. Her mother was the daughter of the American actor Joseph Jefferson, whoever that is. So she lots and lots and lots and lots, apparently. You can find her short biography on Poetry Foundation, which is what I'm looking at right now. She, again, is no longer with us. She died in 1955. And the poem is quite short, but it's I thought it was it was kind of a nice way to wrap it up. It's called The Night Will Never Stay. The night will never stay. The night will still go by. Though with 1,000,000 stars you pin it to the sky. Though you bind it with the blowing wind and buckle it with the moon, the night will slip away like sorrow or a tune. So, I've just opened the chat and I see from Hex, comments in my mouth, don't lick the science. That's generally a good idea. Don't lick the science, but when it's poetry, I think pretty much everything is allowed. So these are what I have for you. There's a dump online. I can try and send it. Let me see if I can send it in the chat. It's mostly in French, but it just has this huge database of poetry about astronomy, and it's just beautiful. Most of the ones that I read today, I found there. There is definitely there's some Planetary Pan had recommended to me someone on Twitter. I didn't end up reading any of those, but they were these short little I think like limerick style things about science. That was pretty cool. I have heard that Symmetry has some like silly haikus, but I didn't get them in my DM, so I am not reading them. But we should be waiting with excitement for Broken Symmetry's silly haikus to come out whenever they choose to share. Thank you, Add 'em All Together, for the bits. I need to come up with a new dance move. I mean, you know, I did this one before, but that's kind of, you know, do like happy dancing. There's only so much I can do when I'm sitting in a chair, so give me a break. But thank you. So thank you guys all for joining. Oh, Add 'em All Together is gifting a tier 1 sub. Thank you so much for the gift sub. Awesome. That involves a different happy dance. Okay, that's enough of that. Thank you guys, everybody, for being with me today on a Monday morning as you go on to your days or onto the rest of Monday, depending on where you are. Life is messy these days, but I hope these little bit of poetry is a good way to get started. This has been Community Coffee. It is a platform provided by CosmoQuest, which is the product of Planetary Science Institute. This is basically a platform for people in CosmoQuest community to come and talk about things that they're passionate about. Thank you for the follow, MusicMan85. And so if you would like to be on Community Coffee, you should be on Community Coffee, sharing your passion. Like, it's as simple as what happened today, which was just Gillian nerding out about poetry for a half an hour. Thank you, Tropical Tom. Oh my gosh, I'm running out of dance moves. Well, I won't run out, but don't worry. Anyway, we will be back in about 2 hours of Daily Space, which is the weekly science roundup for serious things and serious science after the artsy-fartsy stuff that I put on the Monday morning. Do get involved. You can find out how to get involved. The links are coming. The socials are coming. Discord is coming in the chat. So check those out for how you can get involved and how you can support and how you can donate to CosmoQuest, which is how it runs. So that's me out for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining me and sharing my passion for astronomy, poetry, and poetry in general. And I will see you next week. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll figure it out before then. Have an amazing Monday and an amazing day.